Hand loaders, bullet casters, welcome back to my bench. Today, something I would like to talk to you about a little bit is the Frankford Arsenal digital scale. These are pretty common scales. They're inexpensive. Most people at some point or another are going to look at them and say, hey, you know, that's a scale that I think I should probably get. I got this whenever I was just kind of getting started in hand loading. The price was right. You know, this stuff is kind of expensive to get into. So something like this appealed to me. I didn't have a really good high-end or proper scale. I figured I would move up to one later, but I decided to keep this one the whole time because it's actually a great scale. I just don't use it in the same capacity that I used to. And I want y'all to be able to enjoy it too. What we have to absolutely do is know how to calibrate this scale properly. That's something that I want to share with you first here. The screen lights up pretty easily. We have a pretty good clear display. I've got a 50-gram weight right here. So I just turn the scale on. I'm putting the 50-gram weight on there, hitting the units button. Let's see what it tells me. You know, that's pretty close right out of the bat. 49.975. Most people will go ahead and call that 50 grains. The only way we can really be sure this is accurate is we really and truly need to first calibrate the scale. Well, let's turn it back off. I'm going to turn it back on, and what I am going to do now is I am going to push this units button down here and hold it. Now, it says cal for calibration. I'm going to push it and hold it one more time. Now you see where it's flashing 50 grams. At this point, I'll put my 50-gram check weight on there. Pass. I take it off. Now I turn the scale off and I turn it back on. We now have a properly calibrated scale. Let's see what happens this time. I put the 50-gram check weight on and look, I've got 50 grams. I take it back off. I'm at 0. We're not usually working in grams, so we may need to just hit this units button until grains comes up, and I think that's where we're at now. The GR at the bottom shows grain measurement. I've got this little set of check weights. Let's see how accurate this scale can really be. 10 grams. Excuse me, 10 grains. Yeah, there we go. There's 10 grains. Let's see, now I have a 2-grainer. This should come out to 12. Nice. Okay, now I have a 5-grainer. So this should bring us up to 17. 17.1, will it float back down? I don't know. I guess we'll see. These scales do kind of float sometimes. Sometimes you got to give them a moment to settle. But let's see. We've got another 2-grain weight. So is this going to be 19 grains or 19.1? Well, it's holding steady. That 0.1 is still there. I wonder if that was an issue with that particular weight. Let's see. How about a half a grain? A little tiny halfer. That should make it 19.6. Somebody might argue, though, that since it's not kind of right there in the middle, I mean, it is, but it's not. There. What do we got? Now it's in the middle, having it closer towards the center. How about this little guy? This is 1 grain, so is this going to make it 20.6? Looky there, it sure did. Okay, so far our scale is tracking pretty good. How about I add a 20 grain weight? There you go, there's 40.6. What if I add one more 20 grain weight? Is this going to give me 60.6? It sure did. So of all those little check weights, I think one might have given us just a smidge higher, 1/10 of a grain there, because really, if everything totaled up to what was labeled on the weights itself, that should say 60.5. It says 60.6. I kind of feel like it did pretty good here, folks. Okay, so that's all well and good, but how about something practical like powder? Let's stick that little pan right there, and 123.2 grains. So what do we do now? Are we supposed to just pull out a calculator and minus 123.2 grains from whatever our total is? No, sir. We hit this button right here. T-A-R-E. Tare. Okay, so we just zeroed it out. now we will see that negative, because when I pull this up, 123.1 negative, because the weight is missing. We put the weight back. Brings us over to 0, which is exactly what we want. Okay, so let's see what it takes to get 5 grains of bullseye. Alright, so I have a 5cc dipper here. Let's see what that gets us. That should get us something close to 5 grains. So there's 4.5. That's what I got. Now, let's say that I want to trickle up the charge. Let's say we're trickling it up to 4.7. Okay, so I have my trickler here. I'm ready to start bringing it up to 4.7. Oh, that's 8. That jumped pretty quick. Now, let's try to trickle it to 5 grains. Oh, 5.1. And the reason I pulled the scale off and put it back on is because I don't know how well it registered individual grains hitting the pan. And when I pulled it back off and put it back on, it kind of treated it like it was a new charge. So the original charge was 4.5 grains. I said, hey, I think maybe I'll try to get it up to 4.7. So I trickled it up, and then next thing I know, I was at 4.8. Now, so I thought to myself, well, gosh, you know, I might have turned it a little bit too fast. So let's go to 5 grains now. I felt like I trickled it pretty respectably, but then it jumped a little bit past, went to 5.1, and I pulled the scale off, put it back on. It's showing 5.2. It's a little bit cumbersome to trickle with, so I wouldn't trickle with this particular scale. Just weigh the charges as they are. Settles on 5.2 right there. A very important key point to keep in mind, not just about this scale, actually about any scale, and this one is not immune from it because of its digitalness. Draft. Any bit of draft can really cause a problem. I'm going to turn on my ceiling fan for a second. I just want you to see how this can carry. So interestingly, I noticed, you know, we just jumped up 3/10. This is with my fan running. I'm going to turn this fan off. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it jump now. Up 2.2. So, yeah, I've also noticed that even if a fan is off, but your air conditioner, your heater's running, even those light flows of air will affect them. Not just this scale, but also balance beam scales and other higher end scales. So just keep that in mind. Also, if you're walking past a scale swiftly, you know, if you're not thinking about that, the wake of airflow that you leave in your trail can affect a scale as well. And it will affect these also. I would say that this scale is a great option for people who are looking for an inexpensive scale to start with. It's less expensive than a lot of your higher end beam scales by such as Redding or RCBS. The Lee safety scale seems to be close to the same price as this, maybe a little cheaper. I'm not real familiar with that particular scale though. This will run probably under $50. If you were to order it, I would imagine after shipping and taxes, you're probably looking at about $50. It's not a bad little deal for what it is and what you're getting. And I've had it for probably 13 years and I've used it quite a bit for bullet weighing and powder weighing. It's been a great little scale. Just remember to get yourself a set of check weights. So thank you folks. Like, subscribe. LeadSmith out.